argumentation can enhance children's science reasoning, but also that further work has to be done to try and work out how you can use the TAPS to analyse the level of argumentation of the pupils.
Okay, so tell us a bit about the TAPS then. What was that?
That's Tomlin's argument pattern, and it looks at a way that you can use this to analyse the quality of argument that's being carried out by the group that you're studying.
Okay, so it's basically making a judgment about the quality of the argument.
Yes.
What counts as quality in an argument?
Well, the number of reference points is one of it. It can range from 2 up to, I think you mentioned 5 or 6.
Reference points being?
Well, the authors, when they're collecting this properly, developed 5 levels of argument, from level 1 being the base level of argument, which is almost this yes, no, counter discussion in a sense, up to the more sophisticated level whereby there's detailed description within the rebuttal and evidence within the rebuttal. And the difficulty is how do you discriminate between the different levels, and the interpretation of the discrimination between the different levels, I think, is the difficulty, and that's what this paper, I think, highlighted. It ticks lots of boxes for me in terms of curriculum for excellence.
But it's clearly ticking the box in terms of the literacy argument and in terms of the successful and confident individuals bit of it. And
But I think this is something that most of us practitioners are using anyway in the science classrooms when we're carrying out debates and analysing it.
But are we carrying out debates and analysing? I mean, in terms of evidence?
In the secondary school, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Is it a debate or an argument? Is it a genuine debate where the children are researching
we do
for and
both.
against, and they've gathered the data and they're presenting their data, and they've thought about the actual counter side? I mean, I mentioned earlier, I see this as a kind of like a game of chess where you plan your attack moves, but as you're planning your attack moves, you're also thinking of the counter attacks, so you can counter the counter attacks. And I don't think I don't do enough of that. And some of the things I've called debates in the past, I think under these conditions would be classified as discussions. I'm not sure we do enough of this. It's made me think that, definitely.
And from reading sort of some of the transcripts that were there, it struck me about the way that teachers kind of manage this sort of interaction and develop the debate or the dialogue with the pupils.
There's a lovely spoof version of this by Monty Python called the argument sketch.
All right.
Where the chap knocks on the door and goes into the room and says, "Is this the argument room?" "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." And they carry on. And to be using that as an example and having this paper together would be a lovely combination to sell the point.
Okay.
I think we could have a discussion about what is meant by argumentation. I might like to show this little 2 or 3 minute clip of Monty Python to set the scene. I would be thinking about why do we want to encourage argumentation in the classroom.
I think you would also need to, if you were sort of using this sort of thing as a basis for CPD, you would need to consider what skills would the children need to develop, to reach a level of competence where they could actually engage in this.
The argument that's going on. But I mean, for example, one of the things I might do when I'm teaching, let's say, biotechnology, is we'd have a diamond 9, and we sort of, we'll be looking at the use of the pros and cons for genetically engineered crops, and then we can have the children actually, and in groups, arranging cards and coming up with discussing what the things, the key points there.
When most of us are planning lessons, we're not planning the discussion or the debate against these 5 levels.
Right.
This is all quite new to us. So if teachers were more familiar with these possible levels of interpretation, that might help with their planning and their assessment.
Right.
So I think, to be fair to the current practice, people do plan for discussion and debates, but it's to engage the pupils in scientific discourse as opposed to analysing the quality of the argument, because we're not planning for these 5 levels.
No.
Well, and that's where, with Curriculum for Excellence, where literacy and numeracy and health and well-being are the responsibility of all, that there should be more communication between, for example, your English department and your science department, so that they're aware that when you're doing a debate time lesson, that you're you know, you're possibly collecting evidence and that working collaboratively, looking at the quality of the debate, the dialogue between the pupils to be able to jointly, you know, come to some conclusion about, you know, the progress and the development of the children in terms of their skills.
I certainly don't look so much at the quality of the arguments when I've done debates and things with some of my English colleagues, but what I'm more interested in is the sort of quality of the evidence and getting the children to look at the quality of the evidence and the sources of the evidence that they're using, upon which they're basing their presentations, and that way they can try and ascertain the validity and take it forward from there.
Well,
rather than whether you're using a higher level argument, because that to me is not, I haven't been considered that particularly relevant, I have to say, in the past.
But does that not have a bearing then? If you're talking about quality, does higher level argument not infer better quality?
Well, no, you see, as a scientist, I always like to sort of think that children's decisions should be based on empirical evidence as far as possible. And if you've got all these facts, you know, you can present.
So empirical evidence can be distorted too, though.
Yes, but then you can encourage the children to look at that and find out what the source of this empirical evidence are.
But isn't that part of the argumentation? You come back with a rebuttal.
Well, it is, but it's not looking at these. Well, I suppose it is.
I mean, I could look at a survey saying 8 out of 10 prefer such and such, with the sample size only 10. Is it a valid sample?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But I've never looked at it in sort of levels of argument, sort of say, well,
no, neither have I, and that's why I'm quite taken by this. And that's why I said it's made me think about what I do.
Yeah.
I certainly think for this type of table of, you know, with levels of argumentation to be of any use in the classroom situation, it would need to be very much simplified, because you know.
So interpreting the language.
So interpreting the language, you know, if I was to use that as some sort of tool to assist me when I was, you know, assessing the quality of a debate or a dialogue within my classroom, then that would need to be much more user-friendly terminology for most classroom practitioners. But like Diane, I sort of, you know, found it quite a difficult paper to read, and you know, for, you know, the normal class practitioner who's perhaps been away from study for a long time, to go back in and try to get to grips with that, I think it's maybe a common failing of a lot of academic papers, is that the language is not, you know, user friendly for practitioners.
In schools, you perhaps want to use, you know, not mean to sound patronising the folk, but you want to use language that's a little easier to understand.
I mean, presumably the whole point of research is that somebody takes it on board and then implements it, so that it becomes, you know, of some relevance to the classroom or the teaching situation.